So today we have a very special guest with us, Corey Congilio, the master guitarist. You probably already know him from YouTube and everywhere else. Welcome, Corey.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Hi.
Good to be with you.
Good to have you.
So I just saw your video that you just did with Robert Baker, where you taught.
Oh, yeah.
Probably, and I love Robert. Great
Yeah, he's
guitar
the best.
player, great guy. Have never heard him play the blues though, so that was great.
That was where I hope to help him level up a little bit.
It's like hearing him chicken
before
pick.
you came on the camera, and I told Brian I can't play the blues either. He suggested I need to get divorced and develop a drinking habit, and maybe then I could really play them. Is that what's required?
It's a good place to start. I actually have a song in my set where I actually ask, are there any divorcees in the crowd? Because the song completely goes for them, and I figure that's the best place to start.
That's not just a
or
personal
losing a
hunt for
job.
you? Or you're like, hey, I need divorcees in the crowd.
Well, the song was semi-autobiographical, then became fully autobiographical, and many of us can relate.
I see.
Yeah.
So I'm playing with this country band, and the singer is fairly new to like being in bands. He's a good singer, but just hasn't been in a lot of bands. So I was trying to explain, like, you got to sell it. Like you got to have lived the life.
That's right.
And he's a younger guy. I'm like, have you thought about getting divorced lately? Maybe losing some kids, that sort of thing. That might help you feel it.
Dark real quick.
At least get your truck repoed.
Exactly.
Your dog runs away.
You need a good alcoholic habit. That's what you really need.
We need you to work on your alcoholism.
Well, there's
not in the way that you normally would.
Right.
That's
Well,
right.
Come to Nashville. You can work on that in a week, and your alcoholism will be, in full speed, mode for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But have you guys heard about that country record you play backwards? And you get your house back, you get your wife back, you get your car back, you get your dog. That's an old dad joke right there. From not an old dad.
I was going to let you finish
We
that,
do
but
old dad jokes.
I knew that one, yeah.
I've only ever written one blues song, and it was after one of the most traumatic days of my life, which was when I was woken up at 5 a.m. by the electricity tripping out, and the cause of it was my dog, who had got into my office and managed to do some very nasty business all over the bottom of my desk, tripping out all the electrics, nearly killing my Rivera speaker cloth 1 inch away. And that was a fine blues song. Let me just say, that was, yeah.
That's a good day for the blues right there.
That's
No,
when you hit the
absolutely.
brown note on that one.
That's right.
He very much did hit the brown.
He wanted more brown. He wanted more brown in your sound.
Well, I mean, it's a term Brian likes to use when describing gain, that sort of creamy, liquidy tone. I
Oh,
feel
God.
I felt it that day.
That's
Did it give
terrible.
you a stank face? Is the thing?
I was crying. I was crying as if someone had rubbed onions in my eyes directly. It was not,
Oh my gosh.
it was,
Oh,
it was a
jeez.
bad day. But I like the blues.
Yeah. So Corey, you just came out with a blues album, right? Or is it blues singles?
It's
what's a technical term now that we don't sell
Well,
CDs?
I would say, I came out with a single in preparation for more music to kind of come out, and having, I'm a career sideman, and this is my first attempt at kind of going on my own and doing my own thing, and we put a single out called "She's Like the Weather" with a music video that's really fun, and what we're also doing is putting out a collection of sort of obscure blues tunes that I recorded some years ago for an EP. So the first single was to say, hey, I do this, I write, I sing, I do everything that comes under an artist umbrella, but also we're going to show you some of these tunes that I think my core audience would like as well, which is like some classic tunes by like Howlin' Wolf and Otis Rush and stuff like that. So we're kind of straddling both sides of the fence, but man, it's been fun getting in the studio with a lot of different friends and great players.
What studio did you guys record in, or did you record in multiple?
Multiple. She's Like the Weather was recorded fully at my friend Adam Box's home studio. He is the drummer in a band called Brothers Osborne.
Yeah.
And he's a great musician, all-around talented guy. And I got to tour with those guys a few times because I often play with a woman named Lucy Silvis, and Lucy just happens to be married to John Osborne. That's not the nepotism you'd think. She stands on her own. She's an amazing artist and had a career before those guys ever ever had one. Life has just transitioned, and sometimes they get to take their spouse along, which is pretty amazing. And she's got great music and always treats me great. And we were on tour with Brothers several times, and I've known Adam for years. And their first record was called Pawn Shop, and it had all this really great ear candy and quirky stuff going on. And this song is not a typical cut and dry, read the chart down, verse, chorus. There's some quirky things going on, and I knew Adam could help me get it to the finish line. Because I would say, bring the inspiration from that Pawn Shop record into this. And if you listen to it, there's fun little guitar things happening everywhere. There's things that sound like a horn section, but it's a guitar. So we just wanted to have some fun and experiment, and I think it came out great.
So you're in Nashville, though, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So that's were you fighting the urge to make a Zach Top style record? Now that everybody seems to be rushing towards that again.
But I'm purposely kind of like keeping as much popular stuff out of my earwaves as possible, because I am like, being a sideman forever, you think I just got to copy everything and everybody so I get the gig and I can be whatever. And I'm taking this hard turn to kind of like purposefully not listen to a lot of things that might influence me. And some people will say, well, just listen and enjoy, but I can't. My thing is I have to copy immediately. Like, do you ever sit down with a guitar player and he plays something, then you got to try to play it back? Like, that's like me with music. Like, I want to be able to like, oh, I could play that fingerstyle thing. Oh, I could play that jazz thing. And then I realize I can't do any of it very well except me. So why don't I stay in that lane, cultivate that? But there's always one of the worst things about Nashville is the bubble that you're in and being inundated with like what's happening here. And I've had to kind of like step outside of that and be like, I'm just going to do what I think my audience wants. And my audience is the people that buy my lesson courses and subscribe to my channel and stuff like that. So there's always that urge to kind of go in a direction, but I'm going to stay in mine, I guess.
Sure. You mentioned courses.
Yeah.
I happen to love, these guys don't know it. I
Oh,
happen to
geez.
love talking about online courses. It's kind of a passion of mine. Now, these guys wouldn't know anything. I rarely mention it in this podcast, but I'm being facetious, of course. But so do you do mostly True Fire stuff, or do you do your own lessons on a different sites? Or?
It's a great question. Sorry, did you have more to that? I didn't want to cut you
No,
off.
no. I'm just like, I'm curious. So what I'm really trying to get at is like, break it down for me, your methodology of creating courses.
What Brian's
and
trying to do is steal everything from your
Yeah.
mind.
I want to
Okay?
learn everything you can offer
There's-
me, basically.
Throw him a few like red herrings.
I'm happy to do that. Teaching's a passion of mine. I started teaching guitar privately in like 2001 in a music store in a like 4x6 closet, literally, where I had to bring a space heater in the wintertime, and I had to basically wear shorts and a tank top in the summertime because like it was like one of those little tiny stores, you know. But it really got my passion for teaching up and rolling, and you know, in all transparency, it's a great way for a musician to make income, because people like to learn on off times when you're not doing gigs, you know, and that sort of thing. And what happened? Oh, I was doing demos for Fishman in the early days of online.
That's
guitar
right. I
demos.
forgot about it. Because you worked with Frank Falbo, right?
I didn't. He came in after me.
Okay.
Basically, I was a dear friend of mine who passed away a few years ago. His name was Scott Lombardo. And Scott was a titan in the MI industry and was my Fender rep when I was a kid working at a music store. And we got to become friends. He was out of the business, then got back in and became, I think, a VP of sales maybe at Fishman. And he said, hey, we're putting out these effect pedals for acoustic guitar, and nobody really knows how to make them sound good. And he said, I think you could do it. Can we send them to you? And I was like, dude, I barely have an acoustic guitar that you can plug in. Like, I had a cheap Washburn, you know. So they sent me a really nice Martin, and they sent me all these pickups, and they sent me an amplifier, and it was like the first time. This is like 07, so having free gear show up to your door, like
that was
pretty amazing.
groundbreaking at the time, right?
It really was. And they didn't even think about like how hard it was to even post a video online
Yeah.
back then or embed it in your site was
You're
really,
like, how,
really difficult.
I need to make some of these real player videos.
Yeah, that's right. These, Microsoft, whatever that was, QuickTime Player.
Yeah.
Was that back in the day when YouTube? I remember like the first YouTube video I ever uploaded was some goofy video me and my friends were doing, and it took like you uploaded it, and then they're like, "Cool, it'll be processed tomorrow."
3 days.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Check back next week.
Yeah. So it was kind of those days, and they said, this is a good story because I basically set the amps up. They sent me 2 amps so I could do them in stereo, and I had this really cool room in this house I was living in, which was this like half attic kind of thing, and I had it just ripping up there with like ping pong delay and phase on acoustic, and it sounded really good. And they're like, this is what we want. So I flew back to Massachusetts to where their headquarters was, and I remember demoing it for a bunch of Guitar Center managers, and Larry Fishman walks in, and Larry Fishman kind of is like Mr. Spacely, and he's kind of gruff. He's got that sort of stature, and he comes in and he's like, yeah. I could see him shaking his head because he dug what I was doing. I was making these acoustic guitar sounds bounce all over the room. So then they said, can you come to Sweetwater with us? I was like, of course. So all that starts to happen. Now, I know, Brian, you've been at Sweetwater 100 times. This was the early days. They didn't have a theater. They didn't have they had conference room with fluorescent lights. Larry Fishman called me Todd a couple times. He didn't really know, it was funny. So, but anyway, so we go through this whole thing of me working for Fishman, and they said, hey, we want to get into the video game, and not a Fishman video game. That'd be funny. But,
Hey, there's a market there.
Yeah, there is. They said, we're going to go to this place in Florida, and they're going to shoot these demo videos. And I'm like, hi, I'm Corey from Fishman. And I had no idea what I was doing. And they were like, this isn't what we do at the studio. I was like, oh, well, what do you guys do? Because I saw these pictures of like Tommy Emmanuel and Muriel Anderson and all these great guitar players hanging around the walls. And they said, we do online guitar lessons. And I was at basically the True Fire Studios. They had the ability to shoot, upload, and track analytics at an early stage back then, which was great for Fishman because then they could see how many people were clicking on the Aura Spectrum DI or clicking on the delay pedal or whatever. So I shot the videos. They're like, you're a good teacher. You're good on camera. Do you do this kind of stuff? And I was like, kind of. I teach 60 students a week in a little closet. And they're like, perfect. Do you want to work with us? And I was like, great. They thought I was a singer-songwriter, and they said, we want to do like a singer-songwriter course. And I was like, okay, I could probably figure that out. So I go down there and I shoot this course that like never really sees the light of day because we couldn't figure out how to get it over the finish line. And they said, well, this guy's going to a blues jam later if you want to hang out. And I was like, great. Do you have an electric guitar I could take? They're like, really? And I was like, yeah. So they loan me an electric, and I get up and play, and everybody's like, wow, that was freaking great or whatever. And then the next day I get a call from Brad from True Fire. He's like, so what the fuck? You didn't tell us you could do that, and they said, send us
You're the acoustic guy.
Send us
what are
some
you doing?
video of you playing blues. So I sent them some stuff, and they said, okay, they came back and they said, 50 Texas blues licks you must know. That's your next course. We'll see you in 3 months. And I was like, all right. So I didn't know what I was doing. I started watching other courses from like Jeff Mackerlane and Robbie Calvo and people that had been sort of staples of the site at True Fire. And I figured it out. I just started figuring out how to teach on camera. And that's where it started. And so it was like 08-ish. I did 19 courses with them up until 2020. I broke off and started doing some other stuff with Eric Andreas and Brett Papa. And they were those two guys were very much like, you are going to do this on your own. We will show you how. And because they knew, and look, I told you on podcasts, I'll no holds barred. I'm
Sure.
as good at teaching online as anyone I've ever seen. I know it because I care about the people on the other end of the camera, and I'll do whatever I can to get them to understand that arpeggio 6 waves from Sunday. It's not a guitar course for me is not an opportunity to show you what I can do. It's about how I can show you how to do something. And I think a lot of instructors think of online course as just another way to make a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 or whatever. Whereas me, it is a very vested interest of mine that I continue to invest in. And I think they gave me the keys to the kingdom to kind of see how I could do it on my own because they knew I would run with it. A lot of people that talk to folks like me now, I know they're just slightly interested and they're not interested in really doing the work of filming a course and marketing it and all the stuff that comes with it. So they were nice enough to teach me kind of their ways of working. And so I had some courses with them. I had done 3 with Brett and 4 with Eric. And after that, I was able to take those courses and build my own site out called workingclassguitar.com. So actually it's 3 years this month that we started the site for the courses at Working Class Guitar. And we do, like what many people do, we have monthly Zoom calls for our subscribers. We have a community built into the site, but we do a la carte sales also. So people can buy the courses and not be subscribed. But it's a solid membership though for people that are interested. So that's kind of how it started. It started with me doing Fishman acoustic pedal demos, meeting TrueFire, learning how to do it. Now, those 19 courses with TrueFire really trained me to how to talk to a camera and do all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until I stepped out of that and I learned more business acumen from some of those other guys. That really helped. So yeah, that's kind of the journey.
How
That's
weird
awesome.
was it for you to learn how to talk to the camera? Because when I first started making content online, I didn't even put myself on the internet for like a long time.
Right.
It was all just gear stuff. And
Right.
I just like felt like I was staring into like a great white shark that was coming to eat me when I would look at the lens. And now it doesn't bother me at all. But at first it was really weird for me.
The only thing that I can say that really, because I didn't know what I was doing, they told me where to look. And thankfully, like those first early Fishman videos, we had teleprompters. So I got trained on like keeping my eyes here and that sort of thing. But I had a class I went to an art institute, like a trade school for audio engineering. And we had a radio class. And they said you have to speak into the microphone like it's a real person on the other end. But just one, not hundreds of people, because then you'll get freaked out. So I started to kind of take that, that sort of direction and put it into the video world. And that was one of the more technical things I think I could say.
Well, there's some
There you
things
go,
that...
bud.
Oh, go ahead, Richard.
Well, I was going to say, that's super useful for me, because I've tried filming myself recently, and it didn't quite go according to plan, and it's kind of taken its own journey since. But it is hard. Like, it's not something that everybody can do naturally, and the more you think about it, the worse it becomes. Like, if you can forget you're filming and just, like, be hanging out, great. But the minute, as you say, Blake, the minute you think there's a great white shark down the camera, you're just sat there like, hi, welcome to
Why am
my
I
video."
sweating so bad?
Hey, bro, you're not supposed to tell him about that, bet.
Is it hot here? Yeah.
No, I mean, you have to, I feel like it's almost like, I call it like getting shot out of a cannon. Because once you're shot out of the cannon, you're just like, whoa, like, where do I can't land. Like,
Not an experience I've ever done, being shot out of a gun. I
Oh,
can't
you haven't
quite
experienced
remember No,
I thought everybody was.
Maybe that's what you do in Nashville for fun, but in England, if you get shot out of a cannon, you're normally going to be in the sea at the end.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have water around a lot of you.
Right.
But, and the only shot I'm used to doing in Nashville usually has Fireball in it. But no, but seriously, it is a little. You have to say, okay, I'm going to go, and then you go. But then you also have to know, like, okay, you don't have to get it all in one take. Like that's the beauty of video is that you can get yourself in and out of different lines. Like when I shoot an intro for something, it's a loose script, but it's not a teleprompter. I read like the first 2 sentences, and I fabricate a couple different ways to say it in my brain, and then I'll come out and I'll be like, okay, that one's good, that one's good, that one's good, that one's bad. We'll cut that out, and we'll kind of push it all together. So you just, it's like anything, the more you do it, the more you get comfortable with it. And you do, anybody that says, I'm the same guy on camera as I am off camera, they're lying. Because you have to have some level of energy, because if you go, okay, so today we're going to teach dominant 7 arpeggios, and it's like, is that got me excited
I would
about
buy
dominant
that
7?
course. No, to be fair, with that voice, I would buy that course. I'm like, yes, I got sleepy time.
I was
I
gonna say
encourage-
you'd use it for late night
Yeah.
happy time. Yeah.
And then you wake up and you magically know everything. It's like that whole osmosis, system.
I would
Now you
love
might be
that,
onto
though.
something, Richard.
Yeah, seriously though, I mean, they used to talk about this a lot in the 80s. I know it's before your time, Blake, so I apologise. But there was always these like overnight hypnosis tapes.
Yes.
Right. This is our next business idea here, right here. Overnight guitar hypnosis.
That's not a bad idea. Starring Corey Congilio.
You-
Man, if
you
I
will-
could, guys, if I can get in on that, like,
We'll
I'm
cut
gonna
you
change
in.
the world.
Yeah. We'll
You
start
just got to get
with
like
the
real into like, all right, now we're gonna go ahead and this is called the sleepy time riff.
Yeah.
Let it just go off.
We're going to look at the
down.
genius of David Gilmour and Roger Waters. Sit back, relax. No, bro, you're not into that? Oh.
Oh man, I one time it's so funny. I was playing this country gig, and I used to, I had an ex and her friend out with me, and we were like an hour from home, and it was like in some podunk part of Ohio or something. When I used to live in Pennsylvania, we would go to Ohio and West Virginia to play country gigs a lot, and they had been drinking all night while I'm up there playing like a 3-hour country cover gig, and they're just ripped, right? And I said, both you guys get in the back seat. And they're like, okay, we'll get in the back seat. And they get in the back seat. They're all freaking hammered. And I had Norah Jones Come Away With Me in the CD player. And I was like, phew, track one. And I'm telling you, we didn't leave the freaking parking lot. And they were snoring. And it was like, it was the best drive home. Because it doesn't matter, male or female. I don't like obnoxious drunk people of any variety. Like, I like people that have a good time. But they were just like I'd already had like 100 decibels in my ear for 3 hours, and then they were just like screaming on the way home until I put Norah Jones on, and it was seize time.
Was she
That was
your ex
amazing.
at the time, or is
Yeah.
she now your... So you had a gig with your ex and her friend there. That is like a suicide waiting to happen.
I know,
man.
I know. Yeah,
Wow.
that was a long
That's
time
great.
ago. I have I'm a completely different life now, but yeah.
This explains the blues album, surely. This is the
Well,
origin.
This is how we got there.
Guys, there's a couple songs that I have that I've put out over the years. Well, one I've just finished, She's Like the Weather, and then I have this other one called Do This Again, and it's all about being divorced. That's the divorcee one, where I say, take it, we got hitched, it was a blast, it was the best 6 months of my life that I've ever had. She took me to court, and she took half, but taking half from nothing really ain't that bad. And that's like my favorite lyrics like I've ever written. But then my other songs are kind of like that too. And anybody that works with me on those songs, they go like, have you had some relationship troubles? I'm like, you're supposed to put it into the song, right? You know? So yeah, I don't have any songs like that that are new like that, but yeah, there's always room. It's a good thing my marriage now is amazing. So who knows what songs will come from that.
Yeah, good marriages and good blues, do they go together?
They
though,
don't.
You know?
No,
Like,
yeah.
you need to find some pain. Have you thought about getting divorced lately?
Well, what's funny is a guy on that Robert Baker video, he was saying like, if you really want to play the blues, you have to suffer, and blah blah blah. And I said, I've had cancer. Does that count? And he
Oh,
was like,
that's right, you did. I forgot about that. Yeah, you had.
That's some comeback, by the way. That's
Right.
the
Yeah.
room just goes quiet at that point.
it's like,
but
wah, 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 wah.
that's a journey.
No, that doesn't. Well, like, what are you gonna say to that?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I feel we're going to have to touch on that. So when did you enter remission for that?
Oh, it's such a long time now. I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma at 6, and then I was in a remission by 13. But you got to remember, this is like the early 80s.
Yeah,
And
different times for
and people
treatment.
thought cancer was contagious. There was remember that show Fame?
Yeah,
There was an episode of that.
I remember the episode.
And
too.
they were like, they didn't want to get too near the kid that had cancer. They thought, because it was, we had the AIDS epidemic, which was even more misunderstood.
Right.
So it was kind of like an early, I'm not going to say it's like AIDS, but it was like the interpretation of it
Precursor,
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as like the public's lack of knowledge of it, and the treatments were much different. I'm
Brutal
sure than they
back
are now.
then, for sure.
Oh
yeah.
God, yeah. We don't need to go into that, but yeah, it was definitely a trying time for one's childhood. But what was interesting was by the time I was in remission, that's when I started playing guitar. So one thing stopped and another thing started. So yeah,
Well, I'm glad the guitar found you.
yeah, me
You
too.
obviously found the right person. Because
Some days I don't think so.
Well, we all have those days. Some more
Yeah.
than others, right? But
Yeah.
no, that's fantastic to understand where all of this came from. But what's the future holding for you now? You've got the blues album out. What's
Yeah,
next?
so we'll put the EP out later this year, probably like July. And then I'll have more music coming out after that. But in addition, I'm always putting out courses. Last year I put out 7 courses. We try to do if I could do one a month, I would, but it gets challenging with the workload.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I can't imagine one a month.
Yeah,
I'm trying on one a year at the moment, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
How long are your courses on average? What sort of?
It depends. I would say they usually these days don't go over 3 hours in length. So I've found trying to find a sweet spot of the right amount of content for the right price. So one thing I learned early on in the TrueFire days was there's this sense of accomplishment when somebody gets through a course, which is why we leaned a lot on like late beginner, early intermediate stuff, as opposed to coming out of the gates with, more advanced stuff that people would maybe watch and enjoy but not really learn anything from. So what I'm trying to do at workingclassguitar.com is just build a library of everything so that someone can come in as a beginner and kind of as somebody that wants to be like a improvising musician. We start with the blues, but there are so many avenues we can go. Like make sure we learn our pentatonics, make sure we learn our major and minor scales, make sure we learn how to combine and play major pentatonics, and then arpeggios, and then we'll get more advanced as we keep building out courses. But by and large, I feel like we're kind of developing something where it will be a one-stop, hopefully in the next few years. If I could put on another dozen courses in the next 2 years, we'll have an incredibly strong library where your monthly membership will be greater than you think, because there's so much good stuff there.
So the sweet spots are really interesting. So I've been working on a lot of courses for Produce Like a Pro and Pro Mix Academy.
Oh, okay.
They tend to vary from 1 hour to 8 hours.
Right.
And I get a lot more out of the kind of 2 hour because I have to kind of watch all the way through them, and I get a lot more out of the 2 hour lessons than ever you're going to get out of 8 hours, because you've only got so much room in your brain if it's not something that you're fully focused on, like as a full-time hobby. It's like part of your hobbies. But I am working on a beginner's guitar course at the moment, which is huge. It's like 10 weeks and 5 lessons per week, and each lesson is probably half an hour, so it's massive. And when I started it, I was like, this is going to be terrible for me because I'm not a beginner. I know everything, etc. But you know what? There's so much stuff to learn. It's ridiculous. I watched it. I was like, wow. And again, working with professionals, you think I am so far away from the level needed. But beginner stuff, it's massive. There's a huge market there.
There really is, and there's so many different directions that one can go as well. I mean, in addition to the courses, I try to put lessons, on a somewhat monthly basis, because if I put the course out, our VIP subscribers automatically get that for their subscription. But I put bonus stuff in there too, and one of the things I'm doing is something I learned from these jazz instructors years ago, and it's 8 ways to learn the major scale. And you'd think, how can there be 8 ways to play a major scale? And it's one of those things where I don't know this capo until I've seen every side backwards and forwards of it. And that's the way I would teach a major scale. Learn the pattern. Now let's find all the thirds. Now let's find all the triads. Now let's find all the arpeggios. Now let's half step into the triads, the arpeggios, the thirds. Now let's do something called a pivot arpeggio. Let's find all of that within one major scale that encompasses 4 frets. And it's okay, I have looked at this scale upside down and backwards, and now I feel like I got it. Now, the thing is that you're not wrong or less of a player for not knowing all those ways. It's just ways that you can continue to explore. It's how deeply do you want to go in on a topic. And I want to give my students as many ways to do that as possible.
Just to dial this back a little bit. A scale is a collection of notes, normally in a sequence with intervals between each note.
They're the ones that kind of usually sound good together.
What?
It's kind of like that.
Have you heard Do Re Mi before?
Yeah, I didn't like that song very well. It's kind of lame.
I'm totally with you, Corey, because I can't really understand anything. I've got a weird brain. I can't understand anything properly until I understand everything about it. And my brain itches and rejects information if it hasn't got enough. So I've really struggled with the guitar because I've got huge holes in my knowledge. And then just kind of watching all these courses, and I've been doing lessons for 10 years, and it's finally piecing itself together like a really bad Tetris puzzle. but there's just so much out there, man. It's crazy. So having a site like working class guitar, which I was going to ask you about the name on that one as well. That's what I would, if I was starting afresh, I would be starting on a course like that for sure. I'd probably also check out guitarpedalcourses.com because I'm also interested in making pedals. But I think the online course community is amazing now, and the more
really
I
is.
learn about it, the better it seems.
Especially in the DIY guitar arena. I'm just saying, that's a pretty good area.
Yeah, did you hear about Jack White's new course, Brian? What was it?
Oh,
Guitars, pedals, and courses.com.
Golly.
Yeah, but on vinyl. You have to get it on vinyl.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's on microfilm.
Comes with the
You gotta
floppy
go to
disk.
the
It's
library
amazing.
and watch
Yeah,
it.
exactly. But the thing is, Jack White's there at the library. Like, he actually, he moonlights there.
Man, I would sign up for that course, honestly.
That would be
Jack.
awesome.
That would be incredible.
pretty fun.
So, Corey, I have to ask you a really nerdy question.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 3-hour courses is kind of like your sweet spot. Have you ever thought about, or have you ever tried doing like a longer course, let's say 12 hours, but drip feeding it? And does that work well?
Well, the thing is the longer the course, the higher the price, generally.
Right.
Unless, hey, if you want to sell a 12-hour course for $20, that's you, not it's on you, not
Right.
because I look at it as how much does it cost to take a single one-on-one lesson with someone, and what kind of information are you going to get? You are going to get more out of one of my courses for, $50-$60 than most 1-hour lessons. And that's why I don't teach individual lessons, because I know my courses will provide a better experience than me one-on-one. Most one-on-one people want to know, what am I doing wrong? What direction can you steer me in? And that's fine. But I don't really offer that much because I feel like my courses are so inclusive that you can get a lot out of them. And I have done 6-7 hour courses before. And they're okay, but I kind of put it this way, Brian. Would you like to make an all-inclusive one-stop Wampler pedal that had 40 sounds in it that you sold for $49.99? Like, you would do that, but you'd only probably sell, maybe 100 or something in a month, where you might sell 1,000 on launch day of one fuzz pedal.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the economics of it. Now, you guys asked, and I'm being transparent, that's the business aspect of it. But it's also how much the student can take. You don't want that student in a 12-hour course saying, man, I'm only through an hour and a half of this. I'm never going to get all this. This is way too hard. I need to do something that's a little bit more tangible. So that's why I like to drip and spoon feed stuff. Now, in the drip comment you made, and what people don't realize is that
Yeah, we should probably define that.
dripping is releasing the content on a timed basis. It could be a week or whatever. I have done a boot camp product, and what we do with boot camps is I did a 6-week arpeggio boot camp where every week we had like 5 or 6 new lessons come out in that module. That also had 2 live Zoom calls attached to it, and then at the end of the 6 weeks, we would take all those arpeggios we learned and put them into a solo, and we'd have our Zoom call at the end of it as well. So we have done things like that where we've dripped it out. But I've found that the shorter, inexpensive, collection of lessons is just more digestible for most people, especially with the time. Like, I don't have the time to practice, and I'm the one making this stuff, So I can imagine how someone with 3 kids and a day job has those challenges too.
Try having a puppy as well.
Yeah. So try having a pedal business and making courses. It's like, I think I just won't sleep this month. I'm just going to stop sleeping.
Right. Well, the luxury of your business, Brian, is that you can continue to make your hardware, but the courses can be something you can kind of do over time.
Right.
Whereas for me, it is my it's my 9 to 5.
Right.
How do you differentiate between, because obviously you make a lot of free content too.
Mm-hmm.
How do you decide, oh, this is good course material, or this is a good series for YouTube, or is there a difference?
That's a good question. I feel like information given in any capacity is all about community building, and it's about trust. And I want the people that watch my stuff on YouTube to say, man, I'd like to study with this guy. I'm interested in his courses, but he hasn't given me enough free stuff. Well, that's not the case. I give a lot of free stuff away to say, come in, check it out. The water's fine. If you don't like it, you can move on. Like, cancel whenever you want. We always give you a 14-day free trial for the site to check out anything. So you can literally go in my site for 14 months, pillage it, take as much free stuff as you want, download as many tracks, and then end. And I'll say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed it. And I've had people say, well, what would stop someone from doing that every 14 days? And I'm like, nothing really except their conscience. So if they feel
And it'd be
like
a pain.
it would be, yeah, because you got to make sure, like, okay, now I don't get charged on the 15th day or whatever if they don't want to. But again, like, it's for what we offer, the level of entry is pretty low, and I think there's plenty of free stuff that I've done that I think could convince is the wrong word, but make people feel confident in that they're going to get a good experience. So anything's on the table for a free lesson. But what I do is I don't give the baby with the bathwater. I don't. You gotta say, if you want more, you gotta check this stuff out. But
I've heard people.
That works. Sorry, Bri. I think that works incredibly well, because I think a lot of guitar players are looking for tricks. They're like, if I learn this one lick, then suddenly I've mastered this or this one trick. And the minute you hook them with that one lick, that one trick, they're like, I need to learn more from this guy. And that's worked for me on multiple lessons. So I think that's definitely a great approach.
For sure. You want to show people that, like, hey, it's not maybe as difficult as you're making it. I have a road that you can go down, and let me be the tour guide. That's kind of how I look at it.
I've heard a lot of people phrase it sort of like what do they say? Wow, but not how. Whenever you're doing YouTube videos, like show it and sort of explain it, but don't go into the weeds with it like you would with the course where you're breaking down each little part.
Right? Yeah, the courses are way more. They're, how can I say? I don't want to say informal, but they're more informal. I try to make it more like you're sitting down with me, whereas YouTube is a cut here and, hey, check this out and blah blah blah, and here's a shot over here, and then I'm gonna play, and it's just this edutainment kind of aspect to it. But what I'm trying to do lately on YouTube for my channel, I'm really struggling. I got to be honest, because I've had my channel for 4.5, 5 years now, and I used to do a video a week, and it didn't matter what it was, whether it was a lesson or a gear thing. But I'm really just trying to focus on teaching. And if that means view count goes down, that's okay, because I'd rather have a strong view count that translated into people working with me, as opposed to the 200,000 view count on the MXR Rockman, something like
exactly.
That. Like, that doesn't do anything for me other than get me views and honestly help MXR, which is fine if we have an agreement that is mutually beneficial.
Right. If that's your business model, then it makes sense.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're doing courses. And
and we got to get people
demoing overdrives.
That's right. Yeah.
Would you say that is the main source of customers for you? Is YouTube, or do you do paid ads, or do you do other things?
So yeah, YouTube is definitely the driver to get people to check my site out. And we have done some Facebook sponsored ads. As a matter of fact, I'm working on doing one soon to where I'm going to take a best of and make like 20 or 30 lesson best of course just for free and just give it away. And if people come through the doorway that way, if not, great. If not, that's okay too. So we'll have, these are not unknown strategies. Customers might not know them, and there's going to be some people out there and go, "You're tricking us with that marketing."
That's just a lead magnet.
Exactly. It's like what's the lead gen? Yeah, the lead gen. I'm just being honest. This is what the entire business world as we know functions on.
This is how it works.
You scroll on your phone and you see, like, my wife might be looking at clothes or makeup, or every time we see a sponsored ad by. Man, some of these plug-in companies will not stop with the sponsored ads to the point where I have to unfollow them because I'm just like, guys, I'm not going to use that. Like, I've been contacted by them to do demos. I turn them down. They offer them for free. I'm like, I don't want them. They're like, sure, just take them. I'm like, I'm not going to use them, and I'm not going to make a video. about it because we don't have a relationship, and I'm not going to use your product, and I'm also not going to be dishonest to my followers, because as soon as I say that this is the best capo ever, and then I go and I use a G7, they're going to be like, well, what happened to the D'Addario one? You don't use that anymore. It's like I use what I use, and I promote what I like, because generally I know the people involved, and I like the stuff, and they're my friends. Like, so that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah, makes total sense.
it's kind of funny. You probably experienced this too, Corey. Actually, I mean, all of us probably do to a degree, but I will make a video on a piece of gear.
Yeah.
Like, this is great. I think this is really cool about it. And almost without fail, I get somebody will message me privately and be like, tell me what you really think, though. I'm like, I just did.
I wouldn't be wasting my time.
Yeah.
And I think there's a misconception that somehow we're making millions of dollars just shilling every possible thing. when I'm about to, there's a whole. I'm going to try to use TikTok for this, where I just kind of hold the phone up and just say, okay, if you want to get into this space of creating videos for guitar gear, know this ...
Mm-hmm.
And some of these things that we like to talk about, Blake, will come up. Like, no, like, if you're going to be genuine about the product, like, stand behind it. But if you're going to be someone that says, like, I get paid to do this, then say that too. Like the thing I love about, like, RJ is known as someone that you pay to make your gear sound great and demo it. RJ never gets behind something to where it sounds dishonest. He just makes it sound good and shows you the features. And that's his business model, and he's great at it. Like, we've had lunch where he's like, yeah, I can pop out a couple in a day. And he's like, I couldn't do that with a guitar lesson. I was like, oh, I could do the opposite. Like, I could do a couple lessons in a day, but I couldn't demo 3 pedals in a day,
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has their lane, and if it's understood by your audience, I think it's accepted.
It's odd. Pedal demos are, oddly enough, the hardest thing for me to do. I hate those more than anything. I'd much rather talk about electronics or building circuits than here's our product.
I learned what soft clipping was from one of your early videos when you did all the whiteboard stuff that you would do. Like, I'd be like, okay, I got to know what that stuff. So that's good shit. Like, Beato started that way.
Yeah.
Josh Scott would do stuff in his car, and it was like, this is great information from people who are just willing to open the playbook a little bit.
Yeah, the whiteboard. I remember this was, I think, right before I.
That was before you and I started doing this stuff.
Yeah, but I remember you did an audio podcast episode where you were drawing on the whiteboard.
I probably did. That was the best podcast
I was
ever.
listening to that.
So
I think I might have even texted you. I can't remember. I was like, this is kind of not helpful.
Right.
That's awesome.
Because I imagine what you probably did was shot the video, and you're like, well, I'll just use the audio.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we did. The video was primary and the audio was secondary. Yeah. It's like, well, because that's what Gary Vee was doing. He's just like,
right.
Well, I mean, if you want to listen to it, fine, but you probably should watch the video. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How quickly the turns table.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah. And now everybody's like, oh, you do a podcast. Is it on YouTube? And I'm like,
right.
It's right back to like, I did this, and then you told me to do. Well, make up your mind what you want.
Yeah, I am aware that we have recently started putting our podcasts on YouTube. I am getting a better camera, listeners, so don't worry about that. I've noticed today I'm wearing the world's most creased T-shirt, so I'll probably get comments about that.
We could fix that in Final Cut.
That's right. Yeah, there's a de-wrinkler.
That's right.
You say that. I had to do some photos for like some of the like thumbnail stuff, and I was like, what happens if I try the neural filters in Photoshop and de-age me by 47 years? And it's not as clever as you think, this AI stuff. Right? That's all I'm going to say. I could do better with a smooth brush than they did. But it's a whole new world for me. But I apologise to our listeners and our viewers.
Yeah, we asked Richard to make some silly faces. With Blake, we just said make a video.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I did. I just went.
I was gonna say, you're saying that Blake's just silly all the time.
He's just pretty goofy.
Get him doing one of those like squats, or one of those like
oh yeah,
what are those Smith machine things or whatever you're
yeah.
doing over there.
He did some deadlifts, just film his face.
Yeah.
Deadlifts. That's what the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I got to do those. People think I do that just for fun, and it is fun, but it's also to quiet the voices.
Oh,
The void demands weightlifting.
Yes.
I ordered some more weight plates this week, actually. I've had to increase my collection of plates, so that's progress.
Nice. Nice.
And it gets me away from the annoying puppy, too, which is another good thing. Look, we've done a lot of talk about courses and business and all the stuff that makes money. What about the gear? I'm seeing...
Let's hear it.
Beautiful collection of amplifiers just to your left.
Yes.
What are you playing through mainly at the moment, and which axe are you taking to the forest?
Oh, great question. I am a Two Rock devotee. I've been playing their amp since 2018, and my main one that I use is the TS1. Which is, everybody thinks when you mention Two Rock, you're like, oh, Dumble clones, right? No, like there's 2 amps that they make out of the entire line that are a nod to Dumble topology, and the TS1 is like their overdrive special, but with some of the things foot switchable that wasn't foot switchable in a Dumble, like a FET boost and bypass and that kind of stuff. And I realized I had that amp for a while and just was using it in the studio here, and I was like, I'm like one of the biggest Robin Ford fanatics I know. Why am I not using this amp? Because that's the sound I kind of derive my tone from. And I just started figuring it out more, and I love it. I just freaking love it. And most of the overdrive, I have a few overdrive pedals on my board, but the most of the drive is coming from the amp these days, and I can't believe it. It's like...
Wait, what? Do what?
I said, most of the drive is coming from the amp.
All right, and that's been a good podcast.
Yeah, so anyway, but I got a couple other things there on the board. But so that one's been my main thing, just that, and a 112 has been good for all my gigs lately. And then I thought my dream guitar was going to be an old 335, and I found a really good 67 with a broken headstock and a non-factory Bigsby that I could afford, and played it for a couple years. And then I met the Collings people at the Guitar Summit in Chicago.
Oh, right.
Actually, they call it the Fretboard Summit. It's hosted by the Fretboard Journal in Chicago. The Guitar Summit in Germany I have yet to go to. And I was hanging out with my friend Eli from Two Rock, and he's like, you should really meet the Collings people. He's like, they're pretty amazing. And I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, their guitars didn't work for me years ago. They always felt a little too nice, and he said, they've changed a lot. You should check them out. So I ended up getting, it's right here, this is the I-35 vintage, and it's laminate like an old 335. It's not a carved top in the sense of like one piece or whatever. I don't know how to build guitars, but I know this it sounds more like an old 335. Now, the story goes, and this is no bullshit because I promised I wouldn't spin a yarn. The guitar came on my birthday last month, and I had a gig that night. I literally opened the case. It was in tune, tweaked it, played the gig. By the second song, I had this kind of oh shit feeling. I was like, this is destroying my vintage 335, and it's not even close. Like, the playability was better. The pickups sounded better. The only thing that feels a little better on that one is the Bigsby, but I'm such a kind of a Bigsby snob that like I want it to respond a certain way. And this one is like a 8 out of 10, whereas the 335 is probably a 10 out of a 10. But it still stays in tune great, but the playability and the pickups and everything just, I'm like, oh shit, this is killing my favorite guitar, and I'm kind of heartbroken.
Okay, but the question is, how good is it compared to an Epiphone? I mean, really.
Now you sound like all the people on YouTube who are like, you don't need to spend that much money. It's
right,
like
you may have let your facade slip. They may realize that you are all those people on YouTube.
Those are me.
Brian is the
no,
burner
because
account.
the thing, I actually want a great 335, but man,
Okay.
I'm a cheap ass. I am not going to spend that much money
I'll tell you
for
what.
Gibson, dude.
So
Not
I
gonna
did
do
a
it.
video. I did a video at Sweetwater, and I said I want to compare 6 Murphy Labs to 6 Epiphones. So like $7,000 guitars to like $900 guitars at most. And the 335 was the best comparison in my opinion. I was like, and like Marty Schwartz, his Epiphone is great. It's a solid guitar. And sometimes I think cheap 335s can sound pretty good.
So,
I still love my Emily Wolf. Like, I really love that guitar, and it's like $650, I think.
Yeah.
It's
and
awesome.
You should look at Sire too. Like
we've
they're
talked about them
pretty
with Tim
killer.
Pierce, actually. Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, Tim and I we're fans of the quality for the money. I have a S7 hum single guitar back there. I don't play that style of guitar very much, but that one I think it was $619 or something like that. It's crazy. I bought my dad a Tele, and he loves it. He plays it more than any of his other guitars.
That's a good dad right there. That's a good man.
Yeah.
No, bro, that's a good son. That's the message
right.
you want to put out.
No,
I was
yeah,
like,
that's a dad with great taste.
He does have good taste. Yeah. What's funny is I figured after all these years, I should just I should be able to get him some. I'm not like a rock star. I can't buy him a house, but I could buy you a $700 Tele.
I did something similar with my dad. He played the guitar in like the 60s and 70s and gave up. And as a gift one day, I bought him this really expensive Yamaha electroacoustic, and he freaking well sold it. He was like, I wanted a nylon strung guitar. You bought the wrong guitar. I'm like, no, I bought you the right guitar.
Oh, that's crazy.
I was really annoyed at him.
Should have bought him a Great Eastern Railway sign instead. He would have been
much happier with some Great Western Railway spare point fencing. You're correct. So you mentioned the Bigsby. Have you ever tried the Duesenberg guitars at all, and their take on a Bigsby?
Yeah, a better mousetrap probably. Overall. But we're guitar players. We get hung up on aesthetics, and I just love. You could put a Bigsby on an acoustic, and I would think it was cool. Like, I would be into. It's just I like it. I don't know what it is.
What about
gave
G
away a
vendors?
custom shop Telecaster last year through Stringjoy, and it had a Bigsby on it. I thought it was so sick. It was just incredible looking, and I played it at the shop and everything. This guitar is amazing. And like the number one complaint was like, "Oh, maybe I'd do it if it didn't have a Bigsby on it."
Wow.
Like, come on, people, get it together.
That's unfortunate. But
Yes.
I do love the mastery stuff for like the jazz master type trims and stuff like that. I have my Novo has a mastery trim, and it's just butter. It's so good.
Yeah, the Master's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you ever?
Duesenberg, I can't sell. It's annoying because I
wow.
don't play the guitar very much.
Okay.
Like, it's a great looking guitar and I love it. It's a little bit hot, so the pickups probably need work. But the trem is so good that I just can never sell the guitar because there's going to be that one time I need that trem.
Right.
That's the one. But
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian, I interrupted you.
No. I was just wondering. So, Corey, I mean, I know you love Bigsby's, but you have Telecasters too. Do you have any benders on them by chance?
Here's a funny thing. I currently do not own a Telecaster.
What?
Is that even legal in there?
No overdrive pedals, no Telecaster. How did we get here?
Well,
Who hurt you?
That's the thing. There was a time when I had tellies coming out of my ears. I had everything as expensive as an Anderson or a Trussart, all the way down to the Trev Wilkinson's company vintage. They're like a $300 telly, and I had that loaded up with some Fralins, and it was a good like beater guitar. It was actually quite nice. And I've kind of gotten into this thing as we go back earlier into our conversation about trying to find my sound, my voice. Again, I've been a sideman forever, sessions all the time, like all this kind of stuff. And having to be a chameleon and make a telly sound like a telly, make a Strat sound like Strat. I don't even own a real Strat. I own a Novo Idris, which is as
Brian,
close to a Strat.
turn off now. I've had enough. This
Here's
is
the
getting
thing.
too much.
Here's the thing. No, I'm gonna drop some like.
We need to screen these people better.
I'm gonna drop some esoteric shit on you guys. When I play let's go Strat. When I play a Strat, I don't like the way I sound, and I try to sound like what I think a Strat should sound like, which is what we all think a Strat should sound like. It does not sound like me at all. It sounds like me trying to be Stevie Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck. It sounds like my shitty interpretations of that, in my opinion. When I play a telly, I do the same thing. I fall back to all my country stuff, which is fine. But it also is, those two things have something in common. They're both 25.5-inch scale. I don't like the way I sound on a guitar that's a 25.5-inch scale guitar. Now, my Novos are, and that's fine, but they're not a representation of who I'm trying to sound like. A shorter scale guitar does. Now, to answer the telly thing, I have a 64 SG Junior back there that I can make sound like a telly, and it sounds freaking badass because that P90 is just gorgeous in that guitar, and I can twang the shit out of it, and it sounds really good, and you almost would never know. I literally just I had a telly that I sold recently. That was, and now I'm tapped out. Like I have no other. Actually, I do have a telly. It was a gift. That same friend I told you that passed away, he gave me his old telly, but it's not like in playing shape right now. But what's funny was, here's a good story. There's this gentleman came up to me at the NAMM show this year, and it was this gentleman from India, and you know, I don't know if you know this, but like the blues is pretty hot in India. Like a lot of people
Really?
like.
I had no idea.
Oh, dude, I've had loads of people from India contact me about my lessons and stuff. Yeah, so this gentleman, and I don't think there's a lot of musicians doing that kind of thing over there. So this gentleman was so proud about, he had opened for Buddy Guy, and I was like, oh, that's amazing, you know. And he was probably older than me, probably by 15 years or so. And he had his wife with him, who was this like little small Indian woman. She was so sweet. And he said, I want to give you a gift. And I was like, okay. He goes, I make repro custom saddles for vintage Strats, and I want to send you a set. And I was like, that is so kind and so generous. And I was like, but I have something to tell you that's going to disappoint you. And he was like, oh, what? And I was like, I don't own a Stratocaster. And he went, his jaw dropped. And I was like, he was like, why? And I was like, because I don't want to sound like everybody else. And his wife went, like it was some revelation. And it's just like, the best way to kind of start finding your own sound is don't play the guitar everybody else does. There you go. That's my thing. I'll stand behind it, you know. So I know it's silence from the peanut gallery now.
No, I'm thinking, so what you're saying is I need a flying V. That's what you're saying.
Well, a flying V sounds way different than a Les Paul. That's for sure, because that mass is so different. The flying Vs actually sound really, really good. They're just obviously uncomfortable.
I've got like an Epiphone Explorer that's great. It's just
Same thing.
awkward.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
awkward, but it has a different sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just listen to myself in my head and say, you're too old to just chase what everybody else is doing. Do your own thing. You know?
I've always sought that one guitar, and the closest I've come is actually the Squier Paranormal offset telly I've built myself.
Nice.
But I've got to say, like, I always gravitate back to what I first learnt on, which was a Strat copy,
Okay.
and I can't get away from. I tried to get into tellies, like working with Brian. You're almost obligated to do it, and I still have my Ritchie telly over there, but I don't have a Fender telly anymore. And I sold my nice Gordon Smith telly to my cousin, and I just don't vibe with a pure telly. It's just not me at all. The offset.
Have you thought about this, Richard? Have you thought about maybe you're just wrong?
I haven't just thought about it, Brian. You've told me it every day, at least 3 times for a long time. Now, and I saw you pick up the SG as well. I really wanted to love an SG, man, because, and as Blake is on the same page as me here, one of my favourite bands growing up was The Doors, and I loved Robbie Krieger. And, you know, I really wanted to love an SG. I just couldn't love one. It's always been the Strat for me.
I didn't know that
I
you
totally
could make
get it.
those kinds of sounds with a SG.
You love The Doors, sure.
Watch that Doors classic albums. It's really good. It'll shed new light on Doors. But I mean, these pickups are so, dude. You gotta open your horizons, bro.
No, I
Come
don't.
on.
That's like asking him to learn scales.
Nope.
You got to break on through to the other side, man.
I don't have to.
But if
Ship is calling you.
Yeah, but if I took this kind of quasi 335 and went, so that's me. That's more impressive that I'm playing that on a guitar like that. It's the telly licks that you want to hear, but
Right,
it doesn't have. But it sounds different, you know. And
What are the pickups in that? Are they the stock pickups?
they're throwbacks that they stock in that guitar.
Okay.
And they sound amazing. They're really, really good. But yeah, so this is 64 Junior. So I have
Ugh, that's nice. I like
Pretty
that
have
a
sure
a-
lot.
Brian has just fallen in love with that guitar.
Yeah, that sounds
He's-
great, man.
Brian, you've got drool coming out of the side of your mouth, man.
It's funny. Out of all the vintage guitars I have, I have like 5 or 6 vintage guitars now, which is weird because I sold all the new stuff to get, to find like player grade. This is the only one that was not player grade because it's all stock, and I think I'd take this over any of the other ones I have, just because of how good it sounds top to bottom. I have a cool 61 Casino back there, my 335. I have a Trini Lopez. I have a Firebird, which is pretty cool, like a non-reverse. But this one, man, just it just resonates like crazy.
Nice range on that.
It really
It's
does.
Single P90, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of this guitar. I've taken this on the road, and this is the only guitar I would use for like a 12-song set and change it maybe one time, because I could get what I needed out of it. It was a Americana band at the time, but
Yeah, no dive bombs, right?
there was
So
no dive
you're
bombs.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't need any locking trems or anything. But I actually would like to get one really good telly, and I have some things to trade at Carter, so maybe there'll be some things there that I can make happen.
You should hook up with B-Dubs after the show. He's trying to get rid of one of his 400 teddies in his collection.
And well,
He's got some.
but to answer your question, I did have a McVeigh bender put in a Mario Martin telly that I had.
Oh, nice.
I don't know
Yeah.
if you know Charlie McVeigh, but I've known Charlie for many years.
A
And,
little bit. Yeah.
Well, because
I
he
don't
does
know him well.
Brad's
It
benders.
is Brad stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and I got to play some of Brad's guitars. Oh geez, during the flood, like he was making them after Brad lost them in the flood.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it was some of his crooks and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Charlie's a sweetheart, and I just couldn't. I sold that guitar because I wasn't going to play a Bender guitar enough to do it justice. And the way that McVeigh, which is similar to the Glazer, it's tough to get sometimes past, the 14th fret with that bender in your way. But
Right.
What's up there?
no money.
Yeah,
That's for sure. No money.
I'm told there's no money up there. so.
Nothing past the 5th fret, Blake. You know that.
That's why I don't go past it. Don't need to.
Freaking love this guy.
No, this conversation is it's taking me. I'm having this like weird flashback to Corey. We were driving from the hotel.
Dude, I was just thinking about
Sweetwater.
that.
Yeah, and we're just nerding out about '90s country stuff.
Yes.
you, me, and Robert, and but listening to you guys talk versus what I understand, because I understand
Okay.
guitar go brr, like that's
Right,
what I do,
right.
and I'm like, wow, I'm really out of my depth here.
Robert's still trying to get me to make a video on 90s country because he's like, dude, you got to talk about that. I'm like,
You should.
oh, I had a little Nashville bucket list and was like, play with a 90s country artist. And I played with David Lee Murphy for about 2 years and got to start Dust on the Bottle every night. So that was pretty damn fun, I got to say. And then our entire song set was like a Broadway cover list because he's written all the damn songs.
Right.
We played Chesney tunes, Luke Bryan, Al Dean, Blake Shelton, and then we played like 3 or 4 of his cuts from the 90s, which were I actually love those. Like, Party Crowd and song, Fish Ain't Biting and stuff like that. But it was fun. That was a good band because we got to do the Chesney tour and got to do other bunch of fun stuff. So
Super cool.
yeah, that 90s box was checked. Thankfully.
Well, if you are doing the video, you want some pedals to get you the tone, I know a guy.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
right.
that can be provided, and it's just the way that works. Well, we're already an hour here, so Corey,
that
I
flew.
really
Damn.
appreciate you coming on, man.
Oh, man,
love,
it's my
love to
pleasure.
have you on another time. We probably could do another
Anytime.
hour at this point.
Yeah, we could dive deeper into anything. Yeah, for sure. All the Blake's weightlifting.
That's what they're here for. Yeah.
Next time we talk
I watched
about
the videos, bro.
course funnels, and email marketing strategies. It'd be great.
Hey, but anyway, I want to say this since it's fresh on the brain. If anyone is seriously interested in that world, or just dipping their toe into, I hate to say this, the content creation world, which I don't find I'm a musician that has a YouTube channel because I think it's a necessity. and I'm a musician that teaches guitar lessons because it's always been also a necessity. It's a near impossibility to live on a musical income alone. So you have to supplement in a lot of ways. And I'm about 3/4 of the way through this really great interview with there's these guys that have a massive channel. Their name's Colin and Samir on YouTube, and they interview Jack Conte, the CEO of Patreon.
Yeah.
And it is the freaking playbook for this stuff. I mean, it is so good. I have to stop the interview after like 20 minutes because just to process everything they said. And it's a lot of what I already know. But for someone that has never heard that kind of stuff before, it is mind-blowing. It's really, really good. So
Really
go
good.
search that out.
It's a great
Can
interview.
you give me, like the number one tip that you would have taken from that?
Well, let me think. There's so many, man. It's really, really crazy. But the thing is like, you're never gonna put a camera up one day and nail it on your first try and find your audience and go viral. You know, it's hundreds of videos that you need to do, and different platforms in different ways. Like, you could start out doing shorts, but shorts aren't really going to help you community build like a long form thing will. So they talk about all that. But I always just say, just do what you're comfortable with and get started, because I could look at my first video now and it's terrible than the one I made last week or something. And I think outside of their recommendations, trying to find, if you're an artist that wants to make music and build a fan base, it's a really great way to do it, because you can build a fan base with, playing cover songs or, Q&A with people or hanging, like any kind of way that you can build an audience is valuable. And we have all the tools now to do that. You just have to try and take a swing, and many, many swings, actually. Because people might look at, my channel's over 100,000, which is amazing. And, I've got decent Instagram, but that doesn't always mean what you think it's not always the social proof that people think it should be. So you just have to keep cultivating and keep building.
And know that you're going to, even after you, quote unquote, make it, you're going to go through peaks and valleys the whole time. Where you're just like, wow, nothing's working. Nothing I'm doing is working. Oh, wow, I found something that's working. Cool.
I guess I should find a new job.
Yeah.
Man.
It's happens. It's the endless cycle that we all are on constantly. So
That's
it's
true.
not like, it's not everything that it looks like outside looking in. It's just I did a podcast with a couple gentlemen here last week called The Gear Locker, and they were kind of just getting started, and they were going, wow, I had no idea how much work goes into all of this. And it's like, yeah, that's what it is, man. It's all the behind the scenes. This is the fun part.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. It's a little more than just putting influencer underneath your Instagram handle, right?
Right. I did see, it was funny because I was searching someone out and it said internet personality, and they're a musician friend of mine. And then I Googled myself and it said the same thing. And I was like, God damn it. I was like,
Dude, have you ever read I don't know if you have a Wikipedia or not, but have you ever read your own Wikipedia if you have one?
I don't have one, but
You don't? Somehow, maybe it's Wampler Pedals.
Yeah,
We have one.
no, Brian, not somehow.
Yeah.
You asked us to make it. We wrote it for you.
No, we have. So we had the Wampler Pedals, but it keeps getting edited
so people
because
add
I'm
to it.
reading it and I'm like,
No idea
that's
how.
that's not accurate. That didn't happen that way.
Oh
So
my
if that's
gosh.
you doing it, Richard, come to find out, we need to fix that because there's some inaccuracies like crazy.
There is.
I know
there's
it's not you
somebody-
because
no,
there's too many things you've been involved in that
Yeah, no, it isn't
you
me.
didn't write it.
I'm
Yeah, who
There's
could
no way.
have done that?
Well, there is someone who's malicious out there. There's someone who keeps writing some really inaccurate, malicious piece, and I've actually asked to have it removed several times, and they come back. I don't know. Was his name Robert Keeley? I think. I'm not sure.
One
I'm joking.
John Scott, Josh Scott.
Jamie
Scott Joshes.
Stillman?
Anyway, so again, we're going to be into hour 2 if we don't get done. So let's shout where everyone can find you out, Corey.
Cool. Well, my website is CoreyCongilio.com. I'm the only one with that name and that spelling and pronunciation. So it's, even if you fumble, the internet will figure it out. And then workingclassguitar.com is my lesson website, which you can access from CoreyCongilio.com. It's right on the front page. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And then any, social network that you choose, you'll find me as well. Yeah, come visit me on YouTube or any of the other places.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks,
and
guys.
Hopefully, hope to have you on the next episode.
That'd be great.
Another
Thanks,
episode.
man. It's been a real pleasure.
Likewise.